Welcome back to the crypto world. My name is Josh, and right now the Bitcoin price is currently forming a bullish divergence. In just a moment, I'll be explaining exactly what that means, and I'll give you guys my next Bitcoin price targets moving forward. And later in the video, I'll also be covering the correlation between Bitcoin and the stock market, because as you can see here, this is the S&P 500, and currently we are seeing a small correction. But once again, just later in the video, I'll be giving you guys a supports level for the S&P 500, because as soon as we find supports here in the stock market, then it's very likely that that will also carry over to Bitcoin and other cryptos. All of that and more in this video, so make sure you're watching all the way to the end so that you're not missing out on any of this important information. And just before we jump into it, make sure to drop a like on the video down below. And if you're new to the channel, you might as well subscribe with notifications turned on so that you're not missing out on any of these future videos. I post these videos every day here on the channel. So just by clicking that subscribe button and the bell icon down below, which costs you nothing and only takes a couple seconds out of your day, you're going to be getting all of this valuable content every single day here once again. But anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's get straight to what this video is about. So right here, we're on the Bitcoin US dollar chart on the 4-hour time frame. And as you can see here in the Bitcoin price, we have actually formed a lower low here on the 4-hour time frame. But in the RSI, on the other hand, we have made higher lows, as you can see here. So that there is known as a bullish divergence. And what it basically means for Bitcoin is the sellers are losing momentum. The bears are losing momentum. And we're actually due for either some sideways price action, if not slightly to the upside. So sometimes a bullish divergence can actually play out as a reversal signal back up to the upside. But generally speaking, that only happens some of the time. So we can't definitely expect a reversal straight to the upside just because we're seeing this bullish divergence. But what we can expect is reduced selling pressure in the short term. And considering we're on the 4-hour time frame here, it's likely that this will kind of play out over the next 1 to 2 days, possibly a little bit longer than that, but that's kind of roughly the time frame that I'll be looking at. Now, also, if we can see this continue to bounce to the upside here to actually form this second low, we could actually be forming a W pattern. Now, I discussed this W pattern actually forming in some other altcoins in my altcoin video that I posted yesterday on the channel. So if you missed that video, definitely check it out. But yeah, right here, obviously Bitcoin is yet to actually form the W pattern, but we are basically in the middle of forming it. And what we would need to see to actually complete the W pattern is, of course, the price come up to this level just here. And this level that I'm talking about is coming in at around 47.2K approximately. So if we really start breaking above around 47.4K, which is the top of this wick just here, then that is how you know that we would be breaking to the upside. But of course, we also need to see confirmation. So what I mean by confirmation for the brand new viewers on the channel is either a spike in volume as we're breaking that level that exceeds the previous volume levels, or preferably if the price can actually break above it, come back down and get a successful retest. So basically bounce along that level and head back to the upside, then that successful retest can also act as strong confirmation of the breakout. And if that's the case, then the technical price target for this W pattern is coming in at just above 50,000, at around 50,500 give or take. So from the point of the breakout just there to that price target, that would be a move of around 6.5% to the upside. So obviously not a bad trade just there. But once again, that price target does not activate. It does not come into play until we actually break above this line just here at roughly around 47.3 to 47.4K once again. But also something else to actually pay attention to right now for Bitcoin. The volume right now is actually pretty low, which signals to us that we could be in for another volatile move sometime soon. Now, the volume itself doesn't tell us whether that volatile move will be to the upside or to the downside, but just keep that in mind as well, because also if we're on lower volume, that does actually make it easier for market manipulation to happen. And for anyone that's a complete beginner and wants to know exactly why that's the case, definitely check out my last Bitcoin update video on the channel that I posted yesterday, because in that video, I actually provided a detailed explanation on Bitcoin order books and exactly how much money is required to actually move the Bitcoin price to certain price levels. And also over the last 1 day, the Bitcoin price did actually dip just very briefly below the 50-day exponential moving average. But right now, we're currently trading back above this moving average. At the time of filming this video, this moving average is coming in at around 45.2K. So if we can really hold above that level, that would be amazing. But also we have that horizontal level of support right there coming in at around 44,000 US dollars. And that's simply because of the fact that we've also found previous support along that exact level just last month, as you can see with these two bounces. And just before I jump into the really important signals that we're seeing between the stock market and Bitcoin, I'll quickly mention the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index right now has dropped to new lows, at least in comparison to where we were over the last 1 month. As you can see right now, we are sitting in fear, and more specifically, we're sitting at 31, which honestly, for me at least, this is extremely refreshing to see, because over the last 1 month, we were actually sitting in greed, and just before we saw the crash a few days ago, we actually were sitting in extreme greed. And once again, I let you guys know about that just before the crash, saying that anytime we're in extreme greed, that's usually a sign that we're due for some bearish price action very soon. But now that we have seen that bearish price action, this has dropped the Fear and Greed Index back into the fear zone. And by the way, the lower that this goes, the more bullish that I become, because when I see extreme fear, I simply see an amazing buying opportunity. And that's exactly what I was saying time and time again, almost every single day here on the channel throughout this entire time period just here. The Bitcoin price actually dropped down towards 30,000 US dollars multiple times throughout those couple months. And pretty much every single time that the Bitcoin price drops down to those lows at around 29 to 30,000, the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index was flashing an extreme fear signal, which once again, I was letting you guys know that that is an amazing buying opportunity. And so everyone that was back on the channel during around June, July, obviously you've done really well over the last 1 to 2 months just here. And very soon, we're potentially about to see another amazing buying opportunity. Now, obviously this doesn't have to go back to extreme fear, which is why dollar cost averaging is one of the best strategies, because let's just say if this doesn't go to extreme fear, now that we are in the fear zone, it's still a much better buying opportunity right now compared to when we're in extreme greed, for example, just before the crash. So that's basically my Bitcoin strategy right now. I am currently dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, especially while we are in fear. All right, right now, getting into an important segment of this video, I'll be talking about the Bitcoin price and the stock market and how we're actually correlated, at least at the moment. Now, this chart just here is the S&P 500 on the daily time frame, and this is the 50-day exponential moving average. That's what this yellow line is just here. And you can clearly see that the 50-day EMA is just as important for the S&P 500 as it is for Bitcoin, because time and time again, recently for the S&P 500, we've seen multiple bounces along this exact moving average. So this right now is acting as some major support for the S&P 500. And right now that's coming in at around 4,420 approximately. Now you might be wondering, well, how does this actually tie into crypto? Well, if you actually pay attention to the time periods where the S&P 500 was seeing bearish price action and heading in towards the 50-day EMA, we were actually seeing bearish price action in the Bitcoin price during those same sort of time periods. So over the last few months, this has actually been a really good indicator for what Bitcoin is about to do. So for example, looking at this first correction back to the downside in the S&P 500, which was actually in the first half of May, leading in towards the middle of May. And we actually bottomed out on around the 12th to 13th of May just here. And now looking at the Bitcoin price during that same time period just here, that was right here. Seriously, in the first half of May, the Bitcoin price was getting ready for that major crash to the downside, and the S&P 500 bottomed out around here on the 12th to 13th of May once again. So that correction that we saw in the S&P 500 was a leading indicator for this massive crash in the Bitcoin price. Now looking at the next small correction here in the S&P 500, that was in around the middle of June this year. And when you're looking at the Bitcoin price during the middle of June, that was seriously right here, just before the Bitcoin price saw a correction as well. Looking at the correction that came after that one in June, this one actually happened during the middle of July. And now looking at the Bitcoin price during around the middle of July, Bitcoin was also in this small correction to the downside. Now in this case, we were actually bearish a little bit before the S&P 500, but once again, both corrections actually tied into each other. And then we had some very small bearish price action in the S&P 500 just after the middle of August. And looking at just after the middle of August in the Bitcoin price, that was right here. Once again, some small bearish price action. Now looking at the S&P 500, at the recent correction that we're seeing right now, this actually started on around the 7th of September, but really the stock market actually reached the local top just before the weekend, so on around the 2nd to 3rd. Now looking at the Bitcoin price, as you can see here, that was the 2nd of 3rd just there, and then we had the weekend where the stock market is obviously closed and Bitcoin had a chance to push a little bit higher, and then as soon as the stock market opened on Monday and we actually started that correction in the stock market, that actually led into a Bitcoin correction that came after the stock market correction. And when you actually overlay the S&P 500 to the Bitcoin chart just here, so once again, this yellow line is actually the S&P 500 on the daily time frame, and obviously the candlesticks here is the Bitcoin price on the daily time frame. Obviously, they do not have a perfect correlation. They don't have a one-to-one correlation, but usually when the stock market is overly bullish, we're going to see some bullish price action in Bitcoin, just generally speaking. And usually when the stock market is looking bearish, generally speaking, that means that Bitcoin is probably going to be looking bearish as well. And we're seeing this time and time again in pretty much every single correction that we're seeing in the stock market. That also coincides with some bearish price action in the Bitcoin price. And as I was just explaining here on the S&P 500, we're getting close to this really important support here, which is of course that 50-day EMA. From where the S&P 500 is right now at the time of filming this video, that is only another drop to the downside of around 0.8%. So especially if the S&P 500 can continue to hold above the 50-day EMA, then that would be amazing news for Bitcoin, and that would probably signal a recovery in the Bitcoin price over the next couple weeks or so. Once again, if we're seeing a bullish stock market, that is very likely to happen for Bitcoin. And now zooming all the way out to the weekly time frame to look at the big picture here. Once again, the yellow line is still the S&P 500, it just zoomed all the way out, and the candlesticks is still the Bitcoin price just on the weekly charts. And this is really interesting to take a look at because as you can see, anytime we see a major market bottom in the S&P 500, usually that actually signals the bottom of the bear markets in the Bitcoin price. As you can see, the bottom of that 2015 bear market just there coincided with these bottoms that we actually found in the S&P 500. Also, the S&P 500 reached an all-time high and a major market top in the very end of 2017, beginning of 2018. That was also right when the Bitcoin price was topping out for that bull run and entering into the next bear market when the stock market entered into a more volatile time. And then the moment that the stock market found a huge market low, that actually signaled the bottom of the bear market. Same with this March 2020 capitulation. Once again, the stock market saw a major capitulation and we bottomed out. And then we saw the exact same thing in the Bitcoin price as well. Now, obviously, stocks and Bitcoin don't have a fundamental correlation. Fundamentally speaking, they are two completely different things, but the actual value of the stock market and the value of Bitcoin are both determined by people. So that is the correlation between the two. The correlation is not in their fundamentals. The correlation is in the people that are trading both the stock market and crypto. And as always, if you want to get extra updates throughout the day, I post all of these extra bonus updates in real time over on my Twitter, and the link to my Twitter is in the description down below if you want to get all of this extra content, which obviously is completely for free. But anyway, that's just about everything I have to say for this video. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you got something valuable out of this video. And if you did, be sure to leave a like down below. And if you're new to the channel, you might as well subscribe with notifications turned on for more videos like this one. As always, I really do appreciate all of your support on the channel at the moment. I can't thank you guys enough. But anyway, that's really everything I have to say for this video. Once again, I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.